Hello, welcome to RC Video Reviews. Boy, technology, right? The first attempt, I got a blue screen. I'm praying it doesn't do it again. Anyway, this video is about the little SkyRC B6neo, and before I get into the content, I do need to let you know the video is sponsored by Radiomaster, who sent me the B6neo for review. And they also said that Banggood was the one distributing these, and they were looking for some people to do some reviews. So I'm not sure like if Banggood gave it to Radiomaster or what, but here's what I do know. I have an affiliate link in the description if you'd like to pick one up for yourself. And we're going to go through it a little bit today. We're going to talk a little bit about how this little B6 has been working, and I'm going to cover what I like and what I didn't like about it. So with that out of the way, thank you Radiomaster for sending this out for review, the B6neo, and Banggood, thanks for also providing some sponsorship for this review. And I'll remind you, if you want one, affiliate links in the description. So with that said, let's just spend a minute. I want to walk through the setup a little bit because I'm going to zoom in, and what I don't want to do is keep zooming in and out to show you the setup. So what I want to do is show you how I've got this rigged, and that way you can get an idea of, as I'm doing things, what's going on. So on the right-hand side, I've got a couple of 6L 4000s plugged in parallel, and that way I can create a nice little load on the charger. So a couple 6L 4000s in parallel. They are connected via the parallel board to the B6neo. And then I also have a voltmeter attached to the parallel board so I can do things like read the cell voltages. Now, I know that some people are going to say things like, there's voltage drop. You have this wire connected here and you're measuring voltage here. You're going to see voltage drop. And I'm going to tell you in response to that I did measure the voltage drop, and it was less than 1/1000th, 100,000th. Less than 1/1000th of a volt. So I'm not worried about voltage drop. Okay. I don't care. Don't want to hear it. If you want to, tell everyone how smart you are, that's great. But I'm telling you, I've measured it. Doesn't matter. So I'm content using this. And the other thing that I'll say, and I actually have it right here just to prove that I did it. And maybe we'll even take a look at this, but some people say when it comes to calibration, you want to do it under load. I tried that too, and it made such a minor difference. And I think the difference was relative. So I don't think for calibrating under load is all that necessary. We'll try it. We'll take a look, but I really don't think it's that big of a deal. But anyway, let's get into the charger, and then we're going to run some tests. And I want to show you guys on the testing the things that I look for right away. So the big news, one other big thing, I have this battery to act as a power supply because we want to hit it at 200 watts. They say it does 200 watts. I want to see 200 watts. So that's what I want to show, right? So we're going to cover all of that. We're going to get into the calibration. We're going to look at how accurate this is. And to me, those are the two big things. Number one, deliver what you say you're going to deliver. So if you tell me 200 watts and I expect to see 200 watts, number one. And number two, I need these numbers to be kind of accurate. Now, that's another concept that I'm just going to address it up front. These values, you see this goes down to the thousandth of a volt. You have to bear in mind that we are talking about consumer grade gear. And if you have lab-based equipment, and you can get it down to the accuracy of 1,000th of a volt 100% of the time, then God bless you. But the reality is that's not what we fly with, and it's not what we take to the field. So I try and focus on the performance that we would expect to see in the field environment, right? Because that's what we're going to be doing when we're at the field. We're going to be using standard batteries, DC input, DC chargers, and we're going to be balancing down to the closest, say, 100th of a volt. And that's what really matters. So, for all of you guys who are calibration geeks, I get it. It's fine. Go be a calibration geek somewhere. But let's just focus on the practicality of using these at the field, okay? So with that out of the way, I am going to zoom in because I really want you to see these two screens. What I will be showing you when we do the calibration data, just so you can see these two pins right here, I'm just going to be moving those over. So I'll be doing that off screen, but I'll tell you what battery or what cell I'm on when I do it, okay? So that's all I'm going to be doing is moving those over pin by pin by pin. And that will give us an idea of what we see on the voltmeter and what we see on the charger. Okay. All right. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into the charge right away. What I want to do is do the 200 watt test because that's the gravy, right? That's the money. So I'm going to plug in the big battery. I'm going to plug that one in, and all I've done is replace my power supply with a 6L5000, and we're going to jack the voltage or the current up and run the watt test. So let me go ahead and zoom in so you guys can see the screen, because that's what we care about. Now that you see the mechanical setup here, let's get focused on the screen, because that's what you guys are going to want to see. All right, let me make some minor adjustments here. Get the screens on the table so you can see everything perfectly. And there we go. Okay, so 6L5000 on the left, two 6L4000s on the right. And what I'm going to do is run those up to 4.5 amps is enough. So I'm going to set it at 4.5 amps. Remember, we're going up 22. We're starting about 22 volts. So 4.5 amps, that's 9 amps total. We can set it to 10. I'll go ahead and set it 10 because it doesn't matter. The charger limits itself to 200 watts. As you know, I probably already know the answer. Okay, so we're going to go down to start and we'll hit go. And we're going to start charging. And all we're looking for right here on the right-hand side is watts. So that's the wattage. And then we're also looking for the amperage. Here's the amperage readout, 4.85, and we're at 23.9 volts. So when this gets up to the full 200 watts, and there it is, there's 199. You can take 23.96 by 8.34. Let's just do that real quick while it's charging. I'm going to do that real quick. We'll do 23.98 times 8.33. And I'm seeing 199.73. So the math checks out. That means we are seeing 200 watts, and that's what they claim. All right, so I'm satisfied with that. I'll let it run for a little bit while I talk a little bit more about the charger, just so you guys can see it. One of the things I noticed in operation that I like a lot is that it is quiet. I've been running it and testing it on the desk, and it is kind of quiet. I do appreciate that. And they mention that in the literature, that it's got a quiet fan. The other thing that I like quite a bit, and I will show this to you, of course, is that it does a PD input. So not while you're powering it from a DC source, but you can use a PD input, and it actually works pretty well. So we're going to be testing that in as well. Okay. Now while it's charging, I'm going to go ahead and switch and show you the screens that you can view while it's charging. So if you press the up button, you can see that we've got cell voltage there, the per cell voltage. So for pretty much 4.0 all the way across. And then we have the IR, so it does that. And then we're back to the DC input and then the main screen. One of the things that I don't really care for is on a lot of my chargers, you have the ability to adjust the current on the fly. So if I press the button, the only thing we can do is stop the charge or go back. There is no ability to adjust the current on the fly. Kind of wish they would do that, but I'll press this button and we'll go back to the charge. If you press the up arrow, you simply scroll through the different display options while it's charging. And if you press the down arrow, nothing actually happens. That's just ignored. So you press the up arrow for display options, press this button for stopping the charge. You can adjust the current, okay? So anyway, we're at 201 watts, 24 volts, 8.36 amps. I'm satisfied with that. To me, it's done what it says it will do. So I'm content with that. So I'll just stop the charge there. And then I'm going to disconnect the external battery, and I want to show you a PD charge. Now, keep in mind on the PD charge, there are some limits. You cannot run this. Obviously, you can't run this at 8 amps. But what I was impressed with, and it's complaining DC too low. Let me see if I can skip that. There we go. There's the PD input. You can see 65 watts of power with 20 volts and 3.25 amps, what it's capable of. So that's pretty cool, actually. Now, of course, you can't hit it the same way we just did the battery, right? So I'll go back, I'll hit the button, and we'll run a charge. I'm just going to leave it set on the settings I had. So if we look at the settings that I had, we're still at 10 amps. So I'll just leave it there, and we'll hit start. And you'll see it peak out at about 2.3 amps on this one. So give or take 2.3. So there's the amperage on PD, and that's coming off of a USB brick. Now keep in mind, you do need to have a PD capable brick. This will not work with any USB. It's got to be power delivery spec compliant in order to get this. But you are seeing right now 2.2 amps being delivered over a PD wire and a PD brick, which I think is pretty cool. That means you could charge this in your car if your car has PD capabilities, for example. So there's the PD input, and I do like that. I think that's kind of slick. Okay, we'll stop that charge, and I'll just hit stop there. And I figure before we go on to the next thing, what I'd like to do is give you guys a look at the menu system. And oh, you know what? I'm going to disconnect this because I'm going to show you one of the things I don't like about this charger. When I connect the power, and I have it connected to my benchtop power supply now, I don't like these little warning screens where I'm stopped from using my device until I acknowledge their warning. I don't know what the deal is with that. I have not found a way to dismiss that other than pressing the button. So a little bit of an annoyance that you have to do that. I really don't care for that. Anyway, I have this plugged into my desktop power supply, and I thought I'd show you the menu system real quick. So we'll press the return key and long press the return key, and that brings us into the system settings. And in the system settings, we can see task parameters. If I click on that, you can see you've got a safety timer, max capacity, trickle charge, holding charge. I actually went through the manual and I look for an explanation of what this holding charge was, and there isn't one. I'm going to bring that up in just a second. I have to pop this in here. The holding charge voltage. Here is what the manual says about holding charge. I looked it up. I'm like, what is holding charge exactly? And there it is. You can see there is no explanation in the manual on what the holding voltage does. So I don't know what that command does. I kind of think maybe it might, if you leave the battery connected over a period of time, it might maintain it rather than allow it to discharge, but I'm not sure. I haven't been able to figure it out. So anyway, holding voltage is there. It says on. I left it on. And then back. That's it for the task parameters. Under system settings, you have language options. There's English and a couple of Asian languages and German, French, and that's it. So those are your language options on this one. And minimum input voltage, I think that's a safety measure. So if you're powering by a battery, you can set a minimum voltage and that'll prevent your battery from getting run down too low. The LCD backlight, you've got high, mid, and low. So there is a look at low. There is a look at middle where I had it, and we'll put it on high. I have not tried this out in the sunshine yet. I'm looking forward to that to see how it does outdoors, but I think on high, it's probably going to be okay. So I'll leave it on low because that looks like it's giving a better result on the camera. Volume, I do like the volume settings. Again, off, middle, high, and low. But I think on low, it's okay. It's not annoying like some chargers. So I actually leave mine on low. I don't mind a little bit of a tone on the button presses for volume. And then completion signal once, that's just the alert when you're done. You can set it for once or repeat. So I have mine set for once and then back, and that's about it. DC power, it has a DC power output capability. I haven't actually tested it yet, but I'm assuming it comes out here, and you can set your output voltage from 12 volts up to, looks like probably 24 is going to be my guess. Oh, look, it's going to go up to 27. Okay, 1 volt below the rated input max. So that's kind of cool. And then you can also limit the current. So if you need to use it for a little power supply, that will work. And then, of course, if you hit start, that I'm sure it'll send power out these 2 pins. So in fact, you know what? We have a meter here. Why don't we test it? We'll just test it. I don't have it connected to anything. I'll just plug it into the meter and see what the meter says. Let's see. Tell you what, I'm just going to disconnect the probes that I had, and I'll use my standard meter probes. I hadn't planned on testing that, so I wasn't really rigged to do it, but I'm curious, and I know some people ask, hey, how come you didn't show the power output? So let's test it. Let's just see what's going on there. So there, I've got my probes plugged into the meter, and let's see, we will test. We'll put that one on there, and this one on next. It says 1.5 volts, and that's what I'm seeing on the screen. Although I thought I had it set for something a little higher. Well, let's try this again. Back. We're going to do DC power, 22 volts, start. Okay, there's 22 volts. Let's try. I screwed it up. I really don't like messing around with 22 volts with loose pins. That's why I'm being a little bit kind of hesitant about this, to be honest with you. It's not something to be taken lightly. I don't want to feel that one. There we go. 22 volts. I've got the probes plugged in. Oh, I don't want to move them. There you go. 22 volts. So that looks pretty good. 22.1. So yeah, there you go. You got voltage output on the charger, on the charger, and that's actually a nice feature. I like that. So you can use that voltage out to power things on the desk. And it looks like from a current standpoint, let me just check that real quick. Obviously, it has current limiting, so let's just check that real quick. Current goes... Wow, that's actually pretty cool. 9 amps and up to 28 volts. That's pretty cool. I guess it's straight pass-through. So you can use that to govern power and give yourself a little power supply if you need it. I think that's kind of cool, actually. I'm digging that. That's a cool feature. A lot of times on these smaller devices, the ability to deliver higher power like that is somewhat limited. So that's actually pretty cool. I like that feature. Okay, so that's it on the system settings. Battery meter, this one, if you plug a battery in, you can use this as a cell checker. So there's the battery meter. And I also wanted to show you that while we're on the subject, just so you see it. They do advertise this as being used like a cell checker. So if you just take a battery and plug your balance lead in, it actually lights up the screen and brings you right to the cell checker page, which is actually kind of cool. That's a nice feature as well. I kind of like that. So that's it for that little feature. Let's get back into the menu. Here's the warning screen. I hope they get rid of that. I really don't like that. That's kind of annoying. Okay, well, long press the menu, the battery meter, we just talked about that. And then you can restore factory settings. And then there's system info, which just shows your firmware, your serial number, and that's about it. And then system upgrade. I looked on their website for firmware updates. I didn't see any yet. But if you wanted to do a system upgrade, I'm pretty sure you're going to connect a USB cable right there. And that will probably do the job in terms of an upgrade. And that's it for the system menu. So that's it. I mean, that's like the basic operation of the device. Let's do a quick charge, and I'll give you a look at the charging menu itself, and then we're going to do calibration, and then we're going to wrap it up. Okay, so I've got the charge, my parallel board plugged in with my balance lead and my charging wire. So what we'll do is I just want to give you a look at the charging system. So if you press the return button, that brings you to your battery type. And under battery types, you've got LiPo, LiLo, LiFe, HV, nickel metal hydride, NiCad, and lead acid. So good choices there. I'm going to leave this on LiPo. Under cells, it does auto detect. You don't even need to set it on auto detect. It just kind of does it. But if you wanted to set it, you could do that as well. But there's auto detect. Let me go ahead and disconnect this battery, and I'm just to show you, because I want, I like you guys to see this stuff. And to me, that's a feature that I think has been missing for a long time, is the concept of auto detect. Why does that even need to be an option? So let's just plug in the main, and then we'll plug in the balance lead. And this is a little 3S battery. And there you go. So there, as soon as I plugged in the 3S battery and went into the charge screen, it recognized as 3S. I didn't have to select that. I think that's perfect. I really don't see any reason these days why we have to do auto detect. We have balance leads, count up the number of cells you see voltage on. And if it's within a certain set of parameters, say 3 to 4.2 volts, why wouldn't you do that? Notice though that it doesn't do it here. I have to back out. So I'm going to back out. I don't want to hit start there. We'll back out, and then we'll press the menu again and see how it changes to 6S. That's how you get it to change. So it does auto detect it when you load up the charging screen. So under your task options, you have balance charge, charge, storage, and discharge. I don't think I'd ever really use charge. I always want to balance charge my LiPos, so that's what I'll do. So I'll leave this on balance charge. The discharge rate's kind of slow. It does not have an internal transfer rate where you can run it at, say, 10 amps. It is kind of slow. It's going to be limited to the size of unit it is. I something small like 80 watts. I think they say 80 watts if you have a balance lead connected, and about half of that without one. Something to that effect. But at the end of the day, this is not a discharger. If you want a discharger, go out and buy a discharger. I highly recommend these FD200s while we're on the subject. These things are pretty good. Hey, on that note, I want to remind you guys, in case you haven't gotten yours yet, don't forget about the little RCVR 2. These are in my Etsy store, and there is a link in the description if you'd like to get one. These are little setup models, so you can plug a receiver in, add your own servos and hardware, and you can work on setting up your radio right on your desk. So they're $15 on the Etsy store. Link in the description if you want one. Don't forget. Just wanted to remind you guys about that because they've been going, man. People have been getting them, but if you hadn't seen that one yet, make sure you check those out. They're cool little airplanes. Okay, so there's the task balance charge. And then let's see, I think that's it. We covered that already. And then under condition, that really should say voltage. So I'm not sure. I think that's a translation issue, but it should say voltage. Notice they put a little heart next to 4.2, and then you can go down as low as 4.18, and you can go as high as 4.22. So I guess that's fine. I like to actually charge mine about 4.18. So that's where I'll leave mine over time. And then the current, you can select a current up to 10 amps. So 22 volts peak at 10 amps, that makes sense. And then you can go down, obviously, down to the 0.2, and you've got increments of 0.1 or 1/10 of an amp all the way up to 1 amp. And then you go from there. So that works for me. And we'll go ahead and set this back up to 9. Not that it matters. And we will hit start. So once you hit start, I think asking my power supply for 10 amps is not going to work. So I'm going to lower it just a little bit. We'll bring it down to 5 amps. Okay, and then we'll hit start, and you'll see it climb right up to 5 amps. I do like the display. It's very simple. You see what you need to see. You see the voltage of your batteries that are connected. You see the amp rate. You see the wattage rate, and that's volts times amps is watts. So you see your wattage over here. You see the watt hours that are piped in, the time that it took, and the milliamp hours that were restored to the battery. So all of that actually works just fine for me. I'm pleased with everything I see on the screen. And then it's enough. You don't really need more. Oh, and by the way, you get your profile. LiPo 6S balance charge up at the top. So a nice, simple display. It's just what you need. No more, no less. So I like that. And then again, you can scroll through the different screens. Okay, now what I'd like to do is show you guys the calibration process, because that's kind of important. And I am going to stop the charge. So we'll stop that. And I want to show you the calibration process. So what we're going to do to get into the calibration is from the main screen, you're going to press the up button one time and you see the cell voltage. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is connect my leads back to my balance board. So I'm just going to pop these two on here right on cell number 1. And we see 3.994. There is 3.990, 3.89. So that looks pretty, and I have calibrated this, by the way. So I've already calibrated. We're going to talk about that process, and I'm going to show you how to do it. But I have already calibrated this, so it should be pretty close. But we do have something to talk about on this. Okay, so that's cell number 1, 3.993, 3.989. So that's pretty close. Now the next one, this is cell number 2, and we are 3.998. And on the screen, we see 3.995, 994. That's pretty close. We're within 4 thousandths of a volt. That's not bad. Now we'll go on to cell number 3. And we see 3.999. And on the screen, we see 3.997. Close. Let's do cell number 4. There is 4.002 and 3.99. That's very close. 3 thousandths of a volt. That's close. And then I've had people bust my chops about not having this meter calibrated. This is the closest thing I've got. And if I can't trust my fluke to be accurate, then I need to find another hobby. So bottom line is these Fluke 18s are known to be very accurate devices, and I trust it. So I've been using it for years, and it's always been very, very good. And I, by the way, use the law of averages, and I use an asymptotic method where I check it against other devices, and I constantly drive to 0. So I'm happy with the calibration on this in the absence of calibration gear. So if you're one of those ball breakers, just leave it alone. All right, it's fine. The Fluke 18 is more than accurate enough for what we're doing in the planes. So 3.999, that's on battery number 5. And we see 3.996 on battery number 5. That's good. And then let's move on to cell, not battery. Cell number 6 is 4.00, and we see 3.99. So overall, I'd say it looks pretty accurate. I think the worst one, was number 2, right? 3.997. 3.994. So let's tune that one up. The way you do it, when you're on the voltage screen, by the way, you need mains power on both sides. So the SkyRC has to be powered on this side and your mains have to be plugged in over here. You long press the top two buttons, the return and the plus. So when you long press those two, we're going to look at cell number 2. Now, the way you get to that, it's a little counterintuitive. You have to press the up button. And when you press the up button, you'll see it highlight yellow. Now, this is one of my gripes about it. I can't press the minus button to go the other way. And it seems reverse to me. If I'm going down my list, why am I not hitting the down button? It's counterintuitive. So it's just one of those weird things. You have to hit the up button to move down. Kind of strange. So there's number 2, 3.994, 3.997. Now I'm going to show you one of the things I don't like about this charger, and I think they just have to work on it a little bit. I'm going to hit the play button, and you can see that went blue, and I'm going to adjust it hitting up. So I'm going to go up to 397. So now you see that's matched, and I hit return again. So 3997, 3997, everything matches there, right? Now I'm going to hit the plus button to scroll down, which is kind of strange. And we're going to go over to this little play button now. This little guy is highlighted. Now, in order to save your settings, you long press the return. And when you long press it, it will turn blue. And then it writes your settings to your charger. And then from there, you can hit up to go left. And when you do that, you will come back out to the screen. So 3.997, 3.997. I told you guys I was going to show you something I didn't like. What I've been encountering during the calibration is when I come back to the screen, it's off again. And it's just, I don't know what the deal is. Of course, during the live stream, it's perfect. But we can try another one, I suppose. Let's try number 3, because I think that was off a little bit as well. So we'll do number 3, and I'm seeing 3996, 399. That's so close, it just doesn't matter. But what the heck, we'll try it. Fine. We'll long press these 2 buttons. We'll go into the menu. See, it already changed, 3.997. Whoops. See, you can't go backwards. So if you skip it, you got to go all the way around. Don't like that. So press return, press up, hit return again. There we go, 3998, 3998. Now watch it stay perfect. This is what I mean by asymptotic. I've averaged it so many times, I'm probably zeroing in on perfect right now. Ooh, it failed. I haven't seen that before. Let's try it again. Interesting. It failed. The right did not take. I've seen that. I saw that before when I didn't have the mains plugged in. I saw C11. So let's just try it again. Make an adjustment here. And then I'll go to the right button. We'll long press. There, it says success that time. Okay, and then we'll return and we'll go back. And of course, it's right on the money. That's how live streams work. Right on the money. I will tell you guys that oh, there we go. 3992. I'm going to try one more time. Cell number 1, I'm going to try it once more to show you what I'm talking about. Okay, there's 3988. So I'm going to adjust that to 3992. There's 3992. Let's see if I can get it to repeat my error. If not, I'll have to retract my statement. We'll long press the button on play. We should see success. We'll hit up to go to the left arrow. That's right there. That's now highlighted. We'll press the return button and 3992, of course. All right. Well, maybe that's because I've already calibrated it 6 times. So maybe that's why it's now accurate. So there's the calibration, and I think we're good to go there. So let's see. I want to go back and check one more thing. I wanted to check the voltage on number 6, 3997. Let's just pop over to that one real quick. 3997 through 4. It's fine. It's fine. It's close. It's close. I mean, everything that you're seeing here has been off by a few thousandths of a volt. I really just don't think you're going to get it much closer than that. And again, I know some people are going to like to nitpick, but it's, you know, whatever. Okay. Now I told you we'd check it under load. Let's go ahead and do that. So I've got my FD200 here. I'm just going to plug it in. I'm going to take the mains lead off. I'm going to plug it in, and I think I said you had to have mains in to calibrate. I might have to retract that statement as well. So I'm going to put this one under load. In theory. Okay, it's under load, so it's about to go. and we're just going to check the calibration under load. So it's going to start discharging here in just a minute. And I just want to check the calibration under load because people say that. I've had people come in and say, "Ooh, you got to check it under load." I checked it under load. I didn't see much of a difference at all. Okay, so there, let's look at number one, 3983, and we'll just plug this in and we'll do a check. So there's 3977, 3976. See what I mean? People say stuff, but when you measure it, it doesn't bear fruit. There's 3972, 3971. I'd say it doesn't really matter. And you know what the heck? Just because in the spirit of being thorough, here's what I'm going to do while that's going. I am going to change this little shindig around. And what I'm going to do is change my probes, and I'm going to show you at the battery too. I'll show you at the battery itself, because people argue about things like voltage drop. So let's just do it. We'll take a look. We'll take a look on the. Now you guys agree that this was pretty close, right? From here to here, you agree that was pretty close. We already established that. So now what I'm going to do is just plug it in up on the battery itself, if I can get my hands in here. Okay. Oops, did it backwards. That's okay. Okay. So you guys remember me telling you there's no voltage drop, no meaningful voltage drop? Look at that. 3954, 3954. You see what I mean? This is what I'm talking about. People talk about things all the time like it makes some big difference, but it doesn't. I'm very much interested in the pragmatic aspect, and I can tell you right now, looking at this, there's no difference between, there's no meaningful voltage drop. Even through all of this apparatus, we're seeing 351, 350. It's fine. There's no voltage drop. Okay. I think that's enough for the testing. So let's get to the conclusions. We'll get to the conclusions and wrap this video up. So curious how far out of calibration. It did need some calibration, Tom. You got to calibrate. I always recommend, we're going to get to that, but I always recommend calibrating your chargers and your cell checkers. Always calibrate them. If they can't be calibrated, don't buy them. That's my attitude. There's no excuse at this day and age. You've got to be able to calibrate. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to bring up this screen and we're going to talk a little bit about, of course, during the reboot, I lost my PowerPoint. That's okay. We're going to bring that right back up again. And we'll put this, there we go. All right, so let's wrap this up with a little bit of analysis on what I like and what I didn't like about the charger. Number one, I like the ability to calibrate. I love the ability to be able to calibrate a charger. For me, I won't buy gear anymore unless I can calibrate it. So I like that. I did like the navigation buttons, and I think I'd like to switch over to the camera again and talk a little bit about that. There are so many of these devices out there that use these really cheap rockers and rollers that just become inaccurate. And all I can say is that the buttons on this have been accurate. I haven't had to double click or go back because of, weirdness in the navigation. I do like the way the navigation buttons on this one work. They seem to be very accurate. So I'm happy with the navigation buttons on this one. I love the USB PD input because you can use anything to charge that's PD capable. I do like that. I like the 28 volts power input. Again, in this day and age, why not have everything set up for 6S? Because if you got a big 6S battery, say you're going to charge, say 3S packs, you get a lot of charges out of that, depending on your capacity, of course. But volts times amps is watts. All those rules apply. But I do like the fact that they give you a higher voltage input, which means lower amp draw, which means you have the ability to use big batteries to charge little batteries. I like that a lot. I think the built-in battery checker is kind of cool. I think that's a neat idea. I think being able to simply plug in and take your charger and just plug your balance lead in and get a quick look at your cell performance, I think that's brilliant. Why not? Seems like a good idea. Good call there. The size obviously is very good. The quiet operation is very good. Both of those contribute to a nice experience at the field. And I do like the idea of hitting 200 watts on power. So I've been very impressed with those aspects of the charger. What I don't like the boot up warning. I don't understand. I just, you know, I guess lawyers are involved. I just don't understand. I don't like stuff like this. Maybe I was praying that on the very first boot, it would give you that warning to say, hey, you know, make sure you keep an eye on your batteries while you're charging, but it doesn't. Every single time you got to hit the button, and it's just annoying. I don't need that kind of governance in my life. I know how to handle LiPo batteries. It just go away. The calibration accuracy, while I was unable to replicate it on video, I'm going to tell you guys, you're going to have a little faith in me. I had to calibrate, like, I think I calibrated each cell probably 5 or 6 times before I got it zeroed in, like you guys saw it on the video. The good news is that once it's zeroed in, it seems to be pretty close. So I did not really care for the calibration accuracy over time, but I have to admit, it seems like I did get it zeroed in pretty good. So that's kind of maybe an on the fence issue. Maybe they can make some improvements in their math on how they're doing their averaging and their presentation. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. But it did take me about five attempts, maybe 6, 7 on some cases to get it zeroed in like that. The color scheme, you know, they advertise this as a fashionable charger, and I do not understand what is going on with the RC world right now with all these Miami Vice colors, you know, orange and blue that looks like something out of a Good Humor ice cream truck. Just give me black, gray, and silver and red. Dang it. I don't want all this stuff. And right now they show alternate color schemes, but none of them are available. So I don't really get this. I don't understand this. I don't care for it. When it comes to my electronics gear and radio control, that's what I'm talking about. Just give me a black, maybe a hint of orange, you know, a little touch somewhere of red. That's good. But all this creamsicle orange and blue, I don't get it. I know it's stylistic, but for me, it's just, I don't like it. And then one other big issue I wanted to show you guys real quick, the nonlinear scrolling, that's the last thing we're going to cover. And when you press the menu button, I wanted to show you this one because while I like the navigation buttons and there weren't any misses, one thing I did notice is that there is nonlinear scrolling. So if you press the button and say go down to, let's do current because that's a long list. Now, if you press the button once, this is what I mean about no misses. I can press it once and it never skips. It never goes to, you know, it won't go from 4.4 to 4.2. It will always hit the very next one if you press it once. But if you long press it, the scrolling is non-linear. See how that jumped from 4 to 8? It's not linear. It really should go from like 4 to 5 to 6 to 7, but it skipped 4 amps in that process. And what that means is if you want something, you know, say from 4 maybe to 6 amps, you have a lot of pressing to do, or you're going to play roulette Jenga with this button to see where it lands. So there's 2.8. That was one click. There's 4.2. You see what I mean? 6.2. It's just not very predictable on the long press. And I think that's an area they need to work on, is that I think a long press should just maybe give you, you know, 1 amp increment maybe. But the long press is just not deterministic. See how it went from 5 to 10? It's not deterministic. And I don't like that. So if you're going to do, you know, like a minor thing, you have to be prepared to do a lot of clicking, minor adjustments, a lot of clicking. So if you're going to do a longer adjustment, yeah, now it's kind of scrolling through, but it's going through the list really fast. You see what I mean? It's not linear. It's not predictable. And I don't really care for that. I think they have room to work on the linear response of the long press on the up and down keys. So that's it. That wraps up my first look at the SkyRC B6 Nano. I do think it's kind of cool. My very first LiPo charger was a SkyRC B6 Max, I think, V2. It was the blue thing. It was only 50 watts. And I think they got a reputation for being accurate devices. I am going to tell you guys right now, I am putting this in my field box. I've actually got 2 of them. So I'll be putting these in my field box. And the reason I'm going to put them in my field box is because my ISDT Q6s have a nasty little habit while I'm flying of terminating a charge when I have not a balance board, but a balance extension on the charger. It'll every now and then while I'm flying, and Freddie will attest to this, I get a abnormal battery disconnect message for some reason, and it's not continuous. But if I take this balance port out of the way and I plug the balance lead directly into the charger, no errors at all. Never errors out. For some reason, My ISDT Q6s do not like the balance extension leads. So I'm going to try out the B6neos in production, put them in the production at the field, and I'll let you know over time how they behave. But so far, I would say that getting the calibration zeroed out, the functionality's there, the power's there, the input voltage is there, the current delivery is there. So I think they've got everything I need. Oh, and the power and balance leads are on the right side for my particular application as well. So I've actually looked at the little iCharger. Unfortunately, the balance leads are on this side, and I can't use that in my field box. So unless I wanted it upside down, and I'm not going to look at my chargers upside down. So that's it for the SkyRC B6neo. I'm going to take a quick look at questions, and then we're going to wrap this one up. If you guys don't mind hitting the like button, I do appreciate that. Help me out with the algorithm. You know, hit the like button. It does help. It helps with placement. So if you guys can do that, I appreciate it. PD stands for power delivery, and Spin Launch Glide was on that. Bill Cox, how you doing? Tom looks pretty good for a small. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm counting on. The last ones I had were UP610s, and they were decent, but you couldn't calibrate them. So if they were out of calibration, and I found out over time, they seem to have drifted because they did get out of calibration over time. Not cool. So if you can't calibrate it, to me, that's useless. That charger is what established my rule that I won't use a charger unless I can calibrate it. So that's that. Or unless it's perfect, it needs to be calibrated. I was going to say unless it's perfectly calibrated out of the box, but so far they aren't. You have to calibrate them. Curious how far out of calibration. We answered that. As long as it's not balancing, it can't make a difference. Navigation definitely seems somewhat non-intuitive. Yeah, it does take a minute to get used to the navigation, but I would say that for the most part, from the main screen, you're looking at, like, if you were just charging a bunch of, I don't know, 3-cell 2200s, it does look like you can press the button, and you know, if you're plugged in, it auto detects voltage, and you can actually press the up button to hit start. So that works. One thing I didn't test is the continuous charge. That is a feature on the toolkits that I do like since it was brought up. The continuous charge option, let me go back. Let's rediscover, there's the 3S. So I'm going to hit charge. I'm just going to hit start and see if it works. So there's the charge. That's starting. That was easy enough. It's not hard to do that part. But now if I unplug, I'm just curious if it says connection break. That's the message I've been getting on my ISDTs, by the way. So there's a connection break. I don't know if it's going to go back or not. I'll have to try continuous charge. So I don't want to interrupt it. What happens if I just plug it back in? If I just plug it back in, does it resume charging? No, it doesn't resume charging. You have to hit the back button and then restart it. I don't know if it'll resume charging at the end of the charge. That's another feature I'm getting spoiled on with things like my ISDT and my toolkits. They have that continuous charging. So when one is done, if you unplug and replug, as long as you do the same profile, it just starts charging again right away. I do like that feature. It's absent on this charger. So you will have to hit the start button. All right, guys, I think that's it. We've covered this little charger from top to bottom. Overall, I would say I'm giving it a thumbs up. It seems okay. I'm going to try it at the field. I'll let you know how it performs over the long run. Obviously, I don't know. I just got it. I am going to put them in my field box. I'm going to give them a try, and I will let you guys know over time what happens with performance at the field. I hope you liked my video on the SkyRC B6neo. Thanks to Radiomaster and Banggood for sending this unit out for review. Reminder, if you'd like to get one for yourself, affiliate links in the description. And don't forget to check out my Etsy store for a little RCVR 2 if you want to build a little mock-up model. They're available, 15 bucks. That's all I've got for today. Hope you have a fantastic day. Take it easy.